On today's episode, we are going to talk about perfect. What does it feel like when you're trying to be perfect in everything you do? I really feel like this might be a struggle for some of you. And later on, we're going to have Wendy Griswold join us and tell us about her story. Before heading into the question for today, I wanted to share something that I feel God's placed on my heart a few years back, but has really helped me when it comes to realizing that God is speaking, and it really isn't all that hard to hear, at least not as hard as we make it out to be. So hopefully this helps you like it did me. First and foremost, we must be spending time in the Word and in prayer if we are wanting to hear from Him, because who is speaking to you really does matter. And we must be able to distinguish between the noise of this world and His voice. You see, we can't expect to hear from Him if we aren't giving Him our time. But if you are, you must understand and believe He is speaking, maybe just not in the ways that we're used to. I think all of us could say, why can't He just speak like we do here on earth? And although He has and can, it's not His usual way. 1 Kings 19:11-12 says, the Lord said, "Go out and stand on the mountain, the presence of the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by." Then a great and powerful wind tore the mountains apart and shattered the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind, there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. You see, because God is not usually that loud, booming voice, but instead a gentle whisper. So we need to learn to quiet our minds and tune into how He is speaking. The Holy Spirit is living in us and will speak to our hearts. Things will come to our minds sometimes out of nowhere, and when they do, we should pray over them to see how we are to respond. Just recently, I was thinking about an event that needed a theme. I saw this really cool decorating idea with umbrellas and was trying to come up with an idea that would go along with these umbrellas. Something like dancing in the rain, trusting in God in the rain. But repeatedly, I felt in my spirit, nope, it's not going to be that theme, Kelly. Get away from that umbrella idea. You see, I've come to recognize this voice and knew God was talking to me and taking me into a different direction. A few other ways He's spoken to me is through His Word, maybe using someone else to speak to me, or even waking me up in the middle of the night in my dreams. God is very creative and speaks in many ways. We just have to be willing to listen and not push it away as, oh, was that just me? You see, I believe God told me, Kelly, why do you think I'm not speaking to you? I am, just in all different ways, and you don't have to question if I'm speaking to you as long as you're in my Word and as long as we are communicating throughout the day. I am speaking to you. So we need to stop questioning the how and trust that He is, and realize as we connect, you can trust that He is speaking. So I want to encourage you today. The Lord is talking to you, but are you listening even when it's not the way that you were hoping He would speak? It just may be that He wakes you up at 3 o'clock in the morning to say, hey, I have a word for you, so get ready. When we come back, we will talk about being perfect. Just 3 women with big opinions, always with a biblical standpoint. Hey, let's talk about it.
Impact Productions, a multi-layer technology company providing on-site, online, and in-studio video services. Contact Impact Productions to capture your story.
Welcome back to Let's Talk About It. And on today's show, we're going to talk about why do women feel like they have to be perfect? Do you feel that way? Do you not feel that way? Give us some.
If I sit over here and keep my mouth shut, then nobody's going to know anything different. So
Nope.
you go right
Yeah,
ahead.
exactly.
We're going to hear from you.
Yeah.
We're going to hear from you. Teresa.
No, I'm not perfect, and I quit trying.
But you used to try.
When I was a teenager, like, appearance was important. Trying to be perfect in that way. I didn't live in a perfect home by any stretch of the imagination, so I couldn't fix all that. So this had to be perfect.
Interesting. It was something you could control.
Yeah, and then I didn't live in I lived in like a little bit of clutter, like my dad kept everything. So now my thing is I don't keep anything. Like I've thrown important stuff away because I can't stand things laying places. Yeah.
And I do really think that the word perfection, I think we need to bring it down to what it's really about. It's something we can control.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
I agree.
That is usually why we try perfection.
Yeah.
It's something we can control something.
I know that's what it is for me because I was trying to think of some times when things weren't going my way, and a couple things that came to mind. One, our wedding. I planned like no other.
Okay.
I planned every detail out.
So this is something that is a long-term thing for you.
When it comes to like me planning events and things,
Okay.
that really frustrates
Okay.
me. If I'm going to put a time in to make it how I want it to be and then it doesn't go how
Okay.
I thought it was going to be, there's going to be issues. So I look back at my wedding and our photographer was in an accident that day. He didn't tell us, he came, but then he couldn't finish. So we had no photographer. Then the video didn't play. My dress ripped prior
my
to me
goodness.
walking, up to the aisle.
Oh my goodness.
It was like one thing after another, and I'm thinking, I planned this day, every detail of this day. Why is it not going perfectly how I planned? So it's in those moments when I know that I've put the time in that I can see myself getting frustrated and overwhelmed. Troy will tell you, if we have people coming to the house, I need everything in its place and perfectly set up, and so that overwhelming feeling starts to come out, and I can get, to be a lot to be around.
Sure.
Because it has to be
But
perfect.
why do you want it to be perfect when people come over? Because it's a reflection of you?
I think so, and I'm very, that's very important to me that people see a very,
Put together.
nicely decorated.
Okay. Okay.
So then if it's not, the frustration is it just,
Okay.
See, for me, I'm a stop, drop, and roll. The bottom falls out. Okay, let's fix it. So this isn't going to work, but this will. Like I am good moving on the go.
Okay.
Like that. I'm not so much like if the bottom falls out, it's all ruined.
Okay.
I don't feel like that.
I think for me, and I don't know how you are, Kelly, because you and Troy have always been, you're from here.
Yes.
Okay. Coming into a church, we were young when we came here, our kids were young. I wanted, not that I needed people to think I was perfect. I wanted my kids to be perfect. I wanted my husband to look perfect because I felt like it was a reflection on me. If they didn't look perfect or my kids didn't act perfect, then I was doing something wrong. And it was self-imposed pressure. Nobody did that to me. I did it to myself. But I felt like people were looking at my children or my husband and thinking, wow, Arlene just does not have it together,
And see, that's the actually total opposite when it comes to that area of my life.
Okay.
I've been very careful to be so real with however I'm feeling.
Okay.
And Troy's often said, like, it's showing all over your face. Yeah, that is me. You're going to see how I feel. And I've been very, I'm just going to be real and let these women, let the people of our church know, hey, I don't have it all together. Life isn't always perfect. And I think that's always been important to me because I grew up in a church where I felt that pastors' wives did have to put on this, I don't know if it was fake, but you know.
It was what they felt they needed to do.
Yeah,
Yes.
to show. And I'm like, then you're not letting anybody know that, hey, I do have struggles and like things are hard sometimes. So I've been really careful about, maybe too much, he probably thinks, but of letting people, hey, today's a bad day and I'm not liking today or whatever.
I can't relate to the kid thing because I used to feel that way too. Like these kids need to be perfect. They need to be perfect. And it doesn't take long to realize that they will let you down. That they're going to fall off of that pedestal. And when they do, you're more hurt than they are. And so.
Oh, absolutely. They don't care.
No, they don't care. And you're like, you feel like.
You failed.
Yeah. And that everybody saw it too. But I'm kind of over that now.
I do think part of it just comes with maturity. That if somebody had told me when I was, 28, 29 years old, let your children be children and let the people at church see who you are, I don't know that I would have listened. I probably wouldn't have believed them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Probably wouldn't have believed them.
I just think, so many, because I work in women's ministry, I feel like women are struggling to,
Yes.
wanting their kids to be perfect,
Yes.
wanting their marriage to be perfect, and wanting everything to fall in line. And then when it doesn't, they're like, oh, and look at her life. And so it's just very important. I'm like, yeah, no, my life.
Well, and because I am a Southern woman, I do certain things. I mean, I can smile and I can hide things, and I had someone.
I need some of that help because
You need, I can help you with that. I can help you with that. But I had somebody approach me one time when they knew something had gone wrong. I don't even remember what it was now, but they said, "Why do you look like this? You need to say, this is a train wreck." And I'm like, "No, everything's okay. It's all fine." And they're like, "No, it actually isn't."
Yeah.
And you need to admit that. But that was my way of controlling it.
Right.
My way of controlling it.
Yeah. Control's a big part of this
It
whole
is.
topic.
It
really
absolutely
but-
is.
I've come up with a new saying. It goes along with not looking like I used to when I was younger. And just a lot of things. Just a lot of things in life. That I am just perfectly imperfect. And quite frankly, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
okay.
And
Yeah.
sometimes
Okay.
I think maturity is one of the things, and just, letting it go and just saying, hey, it is what it is, and to keep moving forward in that. And sometimes that's hard because you do want people to see a certain.
But when, like you have said with the ladies in your church, it makes people realize, oh, I can be a Christian because she's not perfect.
Yeah.
And she loves Jesus.
Yeah.
I can be a Christian. And my goodness, all we have to do is look all through Scripture. Not one perfect person except for Jesus.
Right. Right.
And God continued to use them.
And people look at your life now and they think, oh, well, she has it all together.
Yes.
Her life is so perfect. And I, a few weeks ago, shared with a lady that a very imperfect part of my life that I do not share very often, just because there's no need to. I'm not ashamed of it or anything like that. It's so small now. And that's why I thought I need to share this, because you look at me and you think that everything was perfect for me. It wasn't. And I shared that little imperfect part. Actually, it's a huge.
And how did
imperfect
she
part.
respond?
Very well, very well. It kind of coincided with where she's at today. And so I felt like that gave her hope that
Good.
she can move from that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think, being real and saying, hey, I don't know what we were talking about, what brought this up in a study, but I let the women know, no, I don't make my bed. No. One of the questions, do you fold your underwear? No, I don't fold my underwear. I just throw them
in there.
And they're like, oh my gosh, for real? And I'm like, yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
And you know what,
Yes.
women, that's okay.
That's right.
Let's be real. We don't have to be perfect. God just wants someone that's willing to seek Him and be used by Him regardless of what life looks like. When we come back, we will have our guest of the day.
Made by Vogel is a father and son business that produces high-quality handmade wooden products such as cutting boards, bowls, bottle stoppers, and more. Products for sale can be found on their Etsy site or in downtown Altoona at the Clay Cup. You can't go wrong buying from Made by Vogel.
This segment is brought to you by Harry's Construction, whose motto is, "If you can dream it, we can create it." They are the kitchen and bath design experts, so call Harry's Construction for all your remodeling needs.
Welcome back to Let's Talk About It. On today's show, we have a special guest with us, Wendy Griswold, a good friend of mine, and she's here to talk about a little bit about her journey in life. But before we start, tell us a little bit about who you are.
Well, I'm a mom of 3. I have 2 boys and a girl, a daughter. They're adult children, and I have 8 grandchildren who are the loves of my life, and such a blessing to me, and I'm very involved with them, and they range from 7 years old to 19.
Wow. 8 grandchildren.
Yeah,
Wow.
two of the boys just went to college this year, so
Awesome.
And do they all live close around?
yes,
Okay,
they do.
good for you.
So
What a blessing.
lots of fun.
So I know a lot of your story, but our viewers don't. You've been on a journey of a lot of different things, and just tell us a little bit about the hard part, and then we'll talk about what God has done through that.
Sure. It was about 20 years ago that I probably would say it was the hardest time in my life as far as a situation. I was married, and I guess I always thought I'd be married and stay married, but for some reasons my husband decided to leave, and I didn't have much of a say in that, but and that was hard enough, but unfortunately my youngest son, he decided to go along with his dad too. That was he was only 15 years old, and a very hard situation for someone of that age to be into. He was close to both of us, but because of his dad's involvement with his sports and stuff, and being, a 15-year-old boy, he decided to go with his dad. So I became really quite on my own. I went from a family of 5 in a 4-bedroom home to myself, and it seemed like overnight that happened, and caused a lot of, obviously, devastation in my life, not only in my life, but in my whole family's life, and depression and hurt and heartache. But I'm living proof that God can take a really messy life and really bring a blessing to me and others.
So, you went through something that was totally unexpected.
Right.
Never thought. And here you are, like you said, alone. And so there's some financial, things that you're going through that you didn't expect.
Right.
But God, in His goodness, brings something along for you. And what's that about?
Well, like I said, I had a 4-bedroom house, which was much larger than what I needed. But yet I loved the neighborhood, I loved my home, and that was the one thing that I felt like I didn't want to lose. I felt like I had lost everything else. And after, I remember a day when I went into my son's bedroom, and I just knelt down on the floor in the bedroom, and I just prayed that the Lord would use my home for others, and that He would get a blessing out of what had happened. And I decided to rent out rooms in my downstairs, and made a little apartment out of it. And at that time I worked at Penn State Altoona, and so I just kind of put feelers out there, is anybody interested in an apartment? And my first My first tenant was a Japanese professor, a woman. She worked at the campus and she taught English and Japanese. And actually, Arlene, you know her.
Yes.
And she was very interested in renting my home, and she was my first tenant.
Did you live in the home at the same time?
I did.
How did that work?
Well, I had an apartment. What I did
Like
was
in the basement?
in the basement
Oh,
of my
okay,
home,
okay.
and I lived on the first floor.
Okay.
And she moved in, and with a lot of stuff, with a lot of stuff. She, I think I had. I said, I think I had Amazon boxes coming every day for a couple of days, but she liked her things. But she was very interesting, and I always said I didn't need Google with Toshi there because she was just an amazing wealth of knowledge.
Yes.
And so it was, it started to feel good to be using my home for others.
Now, how many years ago was that?
I'd say that was about 18 years ago,
And you're still doing it.
and I'm still doing it.
Now, you went through what could have been a tough time during COVID because the colleges were not operating the way they were. Tell us a little bit about that and how God actually got you through what you thought was going to be a dry spell.
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
I did have people leave. I had students. I've rented. Toshi was there. She was my first tenant. She was there for 5 years. But I tell everybody I've probably had 300 people come through my house in this over the last 20 years. Students, traveling nurses, teachers, and God just really opened up doors and opportunities. But as far as 2020, the medical schools shut down, travelers weren't coming so much, and I lost all my tenants. And I really got nervous about, okay, Lord, this is where my income comes from, you know. And I wasn't even, during 2020, I wasn't even working at the campus because I had resigned from the campus probably about 8 years ago in order to help my family out with the grandkids. I mentioned I had 8 grandchildren. Well, my son had 4, and within a 4-year span, he had 4. He had 2 under the age of 2, and then we were blessed with twin granddaughters. But getting back to 2020, I really prayed about things, and I not only started getting travelers back, but I had a rental property of my own that I had purchased when I was working at the college. And I had medical students in that home. And a friend of my son's knew about what I did, and he was interested in talking to me, and he had some properties and he needed a property manager. So he thought I would be good for that position because of having the, I guess the
experience of doing it yourself, sure.
And the different people that from the different schools and the hospital. So
and you probably had made connections with people in all those places.
I had a lot of connections, and so I took him up on it, and I had this rental property. And he said, why don't you think about selling the rental property to me? We'll put it in the business. You'll still be able to, you know, manage that property. So I did, and I paid off my own home and had some money to bank.
Good for you.
Well, you know what? I just think, to end things here, she went through something that was unexpected.
That's right.
But as you kept your eyes on God,
That's right.
focusing on Him, He's like, I'm going to get you through this. I'm going to provide, and you're not going to have to sell your house.
That's right.
You're going to keep your house, and you're going to be financially blessed. And that's who our God is.
That's
and
right.
So,
Yep.
ladies or men, who's ever watching this, know that no matter what you go through, God has a way to transform it as you keep your eyes on Him. When we come back, we'll have our tip for the day.
Let's Talk About It is a Joy in the City production.
Joy in the City is a program highlighting people and organizations having an impact in our city. All too often, we hear about the problems and dysfunction in our culture, but we are coming with a different approach as we take a look at the good things going on right here in our community. Be sure to join us Sunday at 12:30 p.m. on ABC 23.
Hey everybody, my tip for today is quite simply, let it go. Just let it go. Years ago, when my kids were small, I came out into the kitchen moments before we're going to church. And it was Mother's Day, by the way, my day. And they dropped a 5-pound bag of sugar across the living room floor. It went everywhere. Granules of sugar everywhere. And I just stood there and I cried over spilled sugar. It ruined my day, ruined my morning. The kids didn't even go to church. My husband was yelling, I'm in tears, kids are crying, no church. No Mother's Day over spilled sugar. Here I am now, an empty nester, and my husband is not home a lot. He works out on the road, and I have this perfect utopia going on. The only messes that are there belong to me. They're my messes. And I know I'm being hypocritical because I can make a mess when I'm home alone, but I don't want anybody else to do it when they come home. But everything's where I laid it, everything's perfect. Only problem is it's kind of sterile and it's kind of lonely. And this Christmas, all my kids are going to be home for the first time in a long time, and I'm choked up just telling you that because it's been a long time. And they're going to wreck my house. They are going to tear my house up. The bedrooms are going to be a wreck. The bathrooms are going to be a wreck. I know what's going to happen. There's going to be cups here, coffee cups there. It's going to be, my utopia is going to be blown up. But you know what? It's going to be a great time. It's going to be a great time because every one of those messes is going to represent a life that's back in my house that I missed. So on Christmas Day, when your house is a wreck and there is wrapping paper all over the place and toys and parts scattered everywhere, just chill, Mom. Just chill. Let it go. Just let it go. And that's my advice for you is, you know what? You can clean it up later. But every one of those pieces of paper and every one of those messes represents a life in your home. And they're going to grow up and they're going to leave. And you'll have your chance then to have your little perfect utopia, just like me. Thanks for being with us today. And again, leave us a tip on our Facebook page, and we'll see you again next time on Let's Talk About It.